Welcome to Wrestlemania.
Ooh, yeah! I am the game! Woo!
Yes! I will give you a show like you have never, ever seen before. Why? Because I
the best there is, the best there was, and the best that there ever will be.
You will rest in peace. And what you're gonna do when the whole world falls? I mean, destroy
and that's
you.
the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold says it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Welcome to your boy Dalyxman's Wrestlemania Review Series. I will be reviewing every single WrestleMania leading up to WrestleMania 33. Yes, that includes the ones I have already reviewed. And I think it's good that I do look at them a second time and give you a second opinion, because it's always good to go back in hindsight and look at those shows with fresher eyes and not so much of a biased opinion or recent bias, if anything else. Remember, those reviews are coming right off of those shows. So maybe, just maybe, some things will change. Or it will be the exact same review. We will see. But yes, I will be reviewing those shows as well. Today, we are looking at WrestleMania I. And how this will work is every WrestleMania, I will give you some details before I talk about the actual matches. This includes the runtime, the date, because it's important to know what year it happened in, the arena, because that's always good, the attendance, because WrestleMania always plays up its attendance, and WrestleMania 3 still holds the record. Yes, I know WrestleMania 32 supposedly broke the record, but not really. They lied about those numbers. So WrestleMania 3 still holds the record so far. The ring announcer is very important. The backstage announcer, at this point, I believe it was Mean Gene Okerlund. He was very instrumental to the product, including the building of the characters and the showcasing of the talent in terms of promos and having them speak and connect with the audience. Because Mean Gene was very good at asking the right questions for the wrestlers to build off of and, you know, actually make the matches matter, and whatever storyline they're involved in, add some heat to that. Whatever feud they're involved in, add some heat to that. It just really was good to have Mean Gene. Just good to see him too. Someone that I wholeheartedly miss in the wrestling business. And also, most importantly, the commentary. Commentary is something that I think is very important to the wrestling product. It can make or break a product. It can take a show that doesn't really feel all that great, but make it at least feel legit, interesting, real, or organic. I just feel like sometimes commentary gets kind of pushed aside. They don't really matter. No, I'm telling you right now, the commentary, if it's bad, it will hurt a show. And if it's great, it will make a show better. So, those are the elements I will talk about in every single WrestleMania. And then explain how I felt like it hurt or made the show. So, let's just get to the overall thoughts. You would think for WrestleMania, the grandest stage of them all, for this to be a gamble. Think about this. The history of WrestleMania 1 was a big gamble for Vince McMahon. He thought, you know what? Movies and sports have an annual event, Oscars and Super Bowl. Why can't wrestling have one? And so he made WrestleMania. He put all his chips on the table. He rolled the dice for WrestleMania 1. It paid off big time for him, as you can see, because it's still around today, going on to WrestleMania 33. But you would think a show of this magnitude, the very first one, would be an amazing show. It would be a trendsetter. It would be a show that fans would look back on and go, this is what wrestling should be about. This is what every single wrestling show should strive to be. And it was not. When you look back at WrestleMania 1, overall, it was a pretty meh show. Very blasé. I would even say a little below average. Not like underwhelming or bad or terrible. It was just one of those shows you look at and go, I wouldn't watch it more than once. I admire what it's done for history. I admire its historical importance. But in terms of the show itself, I would watch it once, not watch it again. With that said, this show was not about wrestling, as the case for WWE, period. But this particular show was not about the wrestling quality. It was about the spectacle. It was about the star power. We had Cyndi Lauper. We had people like Muhammad Ali. We had Liberace and the Rockettes. It was a lot of big names on this show that gave it that mainstream appeal, to which helped it succeed, to which helped Vince McMahon and the WWF at the time become a big name in pop culture. So out of respect for that, I have to say at least it was a C. I'll give it a C overall. The runtime for the show was 2 hours and 16 minutes. March 31st, 1985. The arena, Madison Square Garden, New York City, baby. The attendance was 19,121, which is basically the size of a Raw audience at this point. Maybe just a little bit over it, but commentary was Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura, who were really good together. I've always thought Gorilla Monsoon was one of the best play-by-play commentators in the history of wrestling. He's able to take a segment that might not be all that great and at least make it feel decent. You know, he can't make everything look great. He's not a Jim Ross, who I still think is the greatest of all time. But Gorilla was good enough in terms of making the segment feel like, alright, it was worth my time. And Jesse played that heel commentator role very well. There was some stuff he said that was like, oh, you douche. But that was good. It's always good to have that foil to make the, how do I put this? He was unbiased, he was neutral. Try it that way. The neutral commentator feel a lot more important and, you know, at least keep him on his toes. Let's go ahead and get to the actual show. It was weird. A lot of these wrestlers didn't have entrances. Like, the only ones that had an entrance were Hogan, Mr. T, Piper, Orndorff. We had, I think, Junkyard Dog. You had Andre the Giant. And I'm missing somebody. I think the women had entrances too. I think. I'm not too sure. I'll look through my list here and find out. But basically, everybody else, they were just in the ring and then they had a match. So it was kind of jarring at first. Like, okay, that's kind of weird, but it's alright. It's basically me remembering this is 1985. Also, no gimmicks. I mean, you see people like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, but he's not the Dragon. He's just Ricky Steamboat. You see people like Matt Borne, who is Doink the Clown, but this is pre-Doink the Clown. You got other people on here. Tito Santana, the Executioner, who was Playboy Buddy Rose. I don't know what was going on with that. I might have to spend a lot of time on that one. But you got a lot of people in here without gimmicks. I guess the only person you can say had a gimmick was Junkyard Dog and maybe Hulk Hogan. But this was pre-Hulkamania. It was just Hulk Hogan at this point. So, a lot of things that we see nowadays, we didn't get this WrestleMania. But it's always good to go back and see where we started, so you can appreciate where we are now. Mean Gene Okerlund sings the national anthem. That's also something that was jarring. Oh yeah, it's 1985. We don't really have any pop superstars opening the show yet. Although they had Cyndi Lauper. Why didn't they get Cyndi Lauper to sing the national anthem? Whatever. Mean Gene did good. I mean, it's whatever. At this point, it's the national anthem. We're in America. Who cares if the song is average? I mean, he hit the notes. He said the words. The lyrics were correct. And the crowd sung with them. So, America. We opened up with Tito Santana versus the Executioner, a.k.a. Playboy Buddy Rose. The match was average. I think this was during the time where Tito Santana just came into WWF, and he was making a name for himself. He has some good moves in there. Very athletic. He was big. These guys back then were huge, muscular, buffy, muscles on top of muscles, big. You know, it was cool seeing Tito Santana do his thing, and he beat the Executioner with his submission, the figure 4 leg lock. Even back then, there was still some athleticism. You know, it wasn't just headlock and elbow drops and suplexes and, you know, that kind of wrestling. No, it was still some stuff going on that's like, wow, that was pretty cool. That was cool to see, you know. Not like we get nowadays, but that's neither here or there. Next match is King Kong Bundy with the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, taking on Special Delivery, SD Jones. I know nothing about SD Jones. I don't think I want to either because he lost to King Kong Bundy in 9 seconds. King Kong Bundy beat him quick. And I think that is still record-holding fastest WrestleMania match to this day. I'm not too sure. I think Rey Mysterio beat JBL faster. We will have to see. When I get to WrestleMania 25, we will find out. But up to this point, this is so far the fastest WrestleMania match in history. He just beat him quickly with the avalanche, King Kong Bundy splash, 1, 2, 3. That was it. And he walked off. So I can't really give that one a rating. I have no rating here because that really wasn't a match. It was 9 seconds. Matt Borne, a.k.a. Pre-Doink the Clown, versus Ricky Steamboat before he was the Dragon. Another decent match. I thought, again, like Tito Santana, really good athleticism from Ricky. Very fun to watch inside the ring. Even at this point, he was good to watch. It's just something about the way he's able to just perform inside the ring that's just attractive. And it's good to have that even at this point where there are no gimmicks. That's rare to see. So, yeah, man, good stuff from Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. He won his match. Next up is a match that I thought was, and all due respect to the people in it. It was David Sammartino, the son of the living legend Bruno Sammartino, taking on Brutus Beefcake before he was the barber, and Luscious Johnny. I have no idea who Luscious Johnny is. But David Sammartino clearly was the babyface in this match. And, yeah, here's the thing about this match. It was cool seeing Bruno. The crowd loved Bruno Sammartino. I will say this. He got the biggest pop of the entire night. This is a show with Muhammad Ali, Hulk Hogan, Mr. T, Junkyard Dog, all these big stars, even Cyndi Lauper. Bruno Sammartino got the biggest pop out of everybody. And he wasn't even wrestling. He was just there. And he got the biggest pop out of everybody in the arena, out of all the wrestlers. And I thought that was telling, of course. But yeah, even though he's his son, David Sammartino was yuck. He wasn't good. He was not good. Brutus Beefcake, I can't say he was any better either. This match was brutal. It was so boring. I got on my cell phone and started playing WWE Champions. It was that boring. I mean, I was tuning into it back and forth, but I was losing interest so badly. I was like, okay, I need something. I need something to keep me watching this. So, yeah, I had to get on my cell phone. And what makes it even worse was the way it ended. It ended in a double disqualification. Oh, because I think Bruno got involved and Luscious, I don't know what you call him, Luscious Johnny, and they fight, and then the referee just throws out the match. No contest. Double disqualification. Despite the fact that the crowd loved Bruno, this match sucked. This was not a good match. And it was boring. I'm sorry. I can't give this a good rating at all. I respect Bruno. You are the living legend, but this match sucked. It sucked. Then we get to the WWF. Not WWE, but WWF Intercontinental Championship. Greg the Hammer Valentine, who was the champion, took on JYD, Junkyard Dog, who got the first entrance of the night, and he got the second biggest babyface pop. Yeah, this was around the time where Junkyard Dog was a bigger babyface than Hogan. I mean, yes, I'll admit that Hulk Hogan was a bigger main eventer, but if you compared the reactions, Junkyard Dog got bigger pops than Hogan. The match is okay. I mean, it was just cool to see Junkyard Dog and Greg the Hammer Valentine wrestle. It was one of those things where it's like, oh cool, two veterans in the sport of wrestling actually wrestling, and I get to see what the people I watch nowadays used to watch and what they learned to do what they do. So it was cool in that aspect. Junkyard Dog at first lost the match when Greg the Hammer Valentine used the ropes. If the match would have ended right there, if the match would have just ended with Greg the Hammer Valentine using the ropes, it would have had a higher score. But for some reason, the referee ended the match, but then restarted the match and did a count out So it was kind of like, okay, that was weird. I don't know how I felt about that. I still don't know how I feel about that. That was kind of off-putting. Just weird all around. I get that the whole point is to make it feel like a sport. And I respect that. Because this was probably still during the time where people thought wrestling was real, I guess. Maybe some people knew it was fake, but didn't really feel they were jaded enough to not watch it. They were just like, okay, it might be fake, but it's still entertaining to me, you know. So I get what they tried to go for. I still don't think it was done very well. It just felt weird. I can't give it anything higher than a C+. I mean, that's still good. It's still decent. Next up was the Tag Team Championship match. This was the match of the night for me. I thought this was a very fun match. The U.S. Express. And the U.S. Express consisted of Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo, who is the father of Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas. And I think they had... Who they have? Was it Captain Lou Albano? Yeah, Captain Lou Albano as their manager. And then on the other team was the classic anti-American tag team, Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. Man, when you had Iron Sheik and Volkov inside that ring, the crowd was angry. They were booing them, throwing trash in the ring, and then Nikolai Volkov gonna sing the Soviet Union national anthem. It was just hilarious. I just laughed my ass off. Being the smart wrestling fan that I am, it was just cool to see heels like that. I'm just like, these are heels. Now, these are real anti-American heels. I wouldn't want to punch them in the face. This is cool. And it made the baby faces feel a lot more special, especially since they were called the U.S. Express. Come on now. Blassie, back in the day, was perhaps the most hated man in the world. I'm not even talking about just wrestling. Like, he knew how to piss people off. Classic heel. And then Captain Lou Albano was one of the, if I dare say, one of the greatest minds in wrestling. And he taught a lot of the wrestlers we see nowadays to do what they do. And out of respect for what he's done, it was really cool to see him. And I love how the heels won. We had Sheik and Volkov use Blassie's cane to cheap shot the U.S. Express and then win the tag team championships. Yes, we did have new tag team champions on this night. Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. And Jesus, the crowd was angry. They were mad. I'm not saying we should get that nowadays because I don't think we want to make the fans that angry nowadays because we don't know what they'll do. They'll jump over the freaking rail and actually kill somebody. I'm not saying that those fans wouldn't have done that back then because they kind of did. We'll talk about that when we get to future WrestleManias. But, yeah, man, it's just a lot of good stuff. The next match was... it's just like the Bruno Sammartino son match and Brutus Beefcake. I like the competitors, but I'm sorry. This match was not good. It was just not good. It was the 15,000 versus retirement body slam challenge. It is Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd with Bobby the Brain Heenan as his manager. Basically, if Andre can slam Big John Studd, he wins $15,000. And if he can't, or he loses the match, he has to retire. Now, if you know your WrestleMania history, you know what happens in this match. Yes, Andre the Giant ends up slamming Big John Studd. But everything leading up to that slam, it was bad. It was rough. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I don't know what happened. It's just... maybe it was just too long. I feel like here's what I wanted to happen. And again, this is hindsight, because 2020 is hindsight. If I was booking the match, I honestly would just have Andre go out there and slam him. Boom. And if they would have done that, I would have been like, cool. Fine with me. Cool. You know, but... and honestly, before I watched this show, that's what I actually thought happened. Because when they talk about WrestleMania I and they talk about this body slam challenge, I thought Andre just went in there, hey, how you doing? Boom! And just won. No, they had a match, and it was not good. And maybe that's why they don't talk about it. But the body slam was cool. And everything after the body slam, I can respect. So I won't hurt it too much. I'll just say... No, I'm not going to be nice. I'm not going to be nice. I'll say this was a pretty boring match. But the moment was cool. The match itself, not good at all. Sorry, I love Andre, but I gotta be real as a reviewer. Because you guys are gonna watch this review and then go watch it. Hey, Dalyxman, you said this match was good! And then you look at me. No, I'm gonna be honest with you. The match is not good, but the moment's cool. We have the Women's Championship, the WWF Women's Championship match. Cyndi Lauper was the manager of one of the competitors, Wendy Richter. Again, Cyndi Lauper was one of the selling points of this show, honestly. I think WWF was working with MTV during this time, and they managed to get Cyndi Lauper, and I think she helped move WrestleMania in numbers big time. She was a very popular singer at this point, and, you know, she brought a lot of mainstream press. So that star power was very easily recognized, especially when she came out with Wendy Richter. The crowd went nuts for her, so I can respect her for what she did. The match itself, not gonna lie, very sloppy. Not the greatest women's match you will ever see, and quite frankly, I can understand why people, like from that old school era, look down on women's wrestling, because you look at this match and you go, yeah, I wouldn't have had a women's match back then either. That doesn't explain why we can't have them now, because the women... Man, Charlotte and Sasha blow these two out of the water. For what this women's match represented and what it did. And I did like the finish. I did like that Richter countered a flying crossbody into a pin and one. Not the greatest match in the world. Wouldn't recommend it to anybody. But there is a new women's champion. Wendy Richter walks out as the new women's champion. Again, I respect what Lauper did for WrestleMania. But this match was sloppy. After that, we get to the main event. The main event of the evening. Of course, we all know what this was. I think everybody knows about the main event. Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Bad Man Mr. T. Versus Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Now, it is very important to know that we had some major big names around this match. We had the New York Yankees manager, Billy Martin, as the guest ring announcer. You know, Liberace and the Rockettes were the timekeepers. Muhammad Ali is a special guest referee. Come on now. The greatest, Muhammad Ali, got a standing ovation, by the way. And I think the manager of... Yeah, in the corner of Paul Orndorff and Piper was Randy Orton's dad, Cowboy Bob Orton. And then the corner of Hogan and Mr. T is the controversial, but still one of the most integral players in wrestling history, Jimmy Superfly Snuka. And overall, decent match. It was fun. You know, overall, I didn't hate it. It was very disjointed. There were a couple of times where they were getting inside the ring and they wasn't supposed to be. You had Muhammad Ali getting there and start punching people. And there were a couple of times I went, why aren't you disqualified? Because, I mean, Piper used the chair on Hogan and he wasn't disqualified. And then, of course, Muhammad Ali hit some people. So I'm thinking, wait, this match is still going on? I mean, nowadays, you irate somebody, that's a disqualification. I'm not even joking. But back then, they were hitting people with chairs and punching people in the face, and other people were getting involved, and that wasn't a disqualification. So it was weird. Especially since they threw out the Bruno Sammartino match earlier. Excuse me, David Sammartino match. But, I don't know, it just felt kind of weird, considering the continuity of it all. But it was still cool seeing Hulk Hogan do his thing. Love seeing Piper wrestle. I thought seeing Orndorff do his thing was cool, too. Because I don't see a lot of Orndorff, or I haven't seen a lot of Orndorff, so he was a pretty good worker. But the match ends in the very classic miscommunication where we have Orndorff holding Hogan in the full Nelson, and Bob Orton falls off and accidentally hits Orndorff in the back of his head with his cast. He had an arm cast that really wasn't, you know, his arm wasn't broken, but it was a loaded cast, so he would hit people or use it to help his team win matches. So he came off the top rope and he hit Paul Orndorff, and then Hogan wins the match as a result. And we just end the show on a, you know, pretty high note. The crowd loved it. And it was cool seeing Orndorff Piper, Mr. T, and Hogan do their thing. And I have to mention, too, that Hogan's entrance, Real American, oh, man, when that music hit, the crowd just seemed to just get happy, you know. And Hogan was able to do that for a lot of people. And people talk about John Cena being that kind of person nowadays where, you know, kids just look up to him as a role model. Hogan was the role model of not just kids, but everybody. He was a role model to the adults. The women loved him. The kids loved him. Definitely the kids loved him. But he was the man. And as WrestleMania continues to trend on, and we get into the future WrestleManias, he will become an even bigger star. But for WrestleMania I, you can tell that, yeah, Hogan was going to be someone big in wrestling in the future. He already was, because he was the world champion. After beating the Iron Sheik for it, by the way. So, and that was it. That was WrestleMania I. Again, looking back on it, it again has big historical importance. But, as a wrestling show, not the best in the world. But that's just my opinion. Give me your thoughts about WrestleMania I if you've seen it. Hopefully I was able to give you guys some information, and that's something I will continue to do for WrestleMania, or the WrestleManias going forward. I will give you some background information so you know exactly what this WrestleMania meant. And hopefully, by the time we get to WrestleMania 32, you guys will feel a lot more smarter than you already do. But thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, check out everything down below, donate to my PayPal, buy my t-shirt, and check out the rest of my WrestleManias. But thank you guys for watching. This is your boy Dalyxman signing off in Dalyxman's world.